on, guys? Good evening. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. We are back. And we are back with some late night United news. Now, you know me, I do the press conferences all the time, and I always say the press conference you see in the day, the one that's live or it's like close to being live, that's always the rubbish part of the press conference. The embargoed part that comes out at 10:30 is always way better. There's always more questions asked. It's longer. They sort of get the questions that have to be asked out the way, and the probing questions, the important ones, the things that people want to hear get asked. And also as well, at 10:30, around 10:30 all the time, that's when all the articles get released for the following morning. So we said, we were having a bit of a whip around today. We were saying, you know what? What needs to happen is there needs to be a late night United news show. So what we're going to do on Fridays, most of the time when there are these press conferences and the embargoed part of the press conferences, afterwards, we'll be here. We'll be here with you guys and we'll have a chat and we'll say, oh, did you see what's going on? Did you see what was said? Have you seen what's been written? And there's plenty to get into on the eve of a huge Premier League encounter at Craven Cottage tomorrow in the Premier League. As I mentioned, I think as we're talking right now, the players are already in London. They're already hopefully getting their rest and recovery in ahead of tomorrow's game. They had the travel down to the capital today, but we've got so much to get into because we've got to talk about Erik ten Hag criticising Marcus Rashford for his off-the-pitch antics, I suppose, after the Manchester derby, but in the same breath, still backing him, still praising him, still supporting his star player last season by saying that just because this off-the-field incident has happened, it doesn't mean that he's not fitting in, it doesn't mean that he's not trying, it doesn't mean that he's not with us, he's not together, and has also said that Rashford will be available to play tomorrow. So some big quotes to get into. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. United says, is this really worth an 11 p.m. stream? I would like to stress, we haven't gone live just because of this. This was always the intention. This was always the plan, to go live after this. Because as I mentioned earlier on, as I just said, this is what we're going to be doing on these Fridays now. It's to be, again, to not just, it's not always going to be press conference. It might just be news. Again, lots of articles, lots of news stories happen late at night. For us anyway, around the world, it might be early for you if you're in the US as well. It's what's the time at the moment in America? This is like nearly 7 in America at the moment, I think, something like that. The time difference, the clock's going back, it's kind of ruined that all for me at the moment. Nevertheless, let's get straight into what Erik ten Hag said. I do want to also chat about Kobbie Mainoo today as well, because there were some rumours and reports about Manchester City sniffing around Kobbie Mainoo. Yes, but Manchester United not being worried about City again sniffing around our future starlet, perhaps something like that. So we'll get straight into that too. So it's not just a press conference stream or anything like that as well. So let's start off with the first part of this embargoed press conference. Let's talk about Erik ten Hag being asked about Marcus Rashford and his, I guess, off-the-field party. Now, if you're not familiar, it was a story that came out Monday, I think it was, Monday of this week. And essentially, I'm glossing over some of the details as well. Essentially what it was is that after the Manchester derby, Marcus Rashford was out attending a birthday celebration. It was his birthday. I think his birthday is on Halloween, I believe. So he was attending a birthday celebration. It wasn't organised or arranged by him, but the issue in question was that he had training the next morning. The party was believed, I think, to have gone on till 3:30 in the morning. It wasn't just him there. There was, I think, Tyrell Malacia attended as well. Again, it was set up by people that, not him, and it was a birthday celebration. It must also be stressed that just because the party ended at 3:30 doesn't mean he was there till 3:30, and also he was not late for training or anything like that. He attended training Monday morning, and there wasn't any issues of lateness or anything like that. But the question became, was this acceptable? What rules are in place regarding being out the night before training, after a game as well? What rules are in place? Because I always feel a bit uncomfortable with that kind of criticism, after a defeat. Sometimes you see that, right, don't you? You see so-and-so celebrated or seen partying after a defeat. And you have to walk this fine line when you say, they're humans. They're allowed a private life at the same time as well. Oh, they lost, so you can't go outside after the game. It's nonsense. But I think what this question is more focused around is, what are the rules? Because sometimes with some clubs, there are rules in place whereby if you're doing training at 9 the next morning or something like that, you're not allowed to be seen, or you shouldn't be out and about at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? That sometimes they can be the rules. So Erik ten Hag was asked, Marcus Rashford had a party hours after Sunday night. Were you aware of that? Did you know about it? Have you spoken to Marcus Rashford about it? What's the situation? And Erik ten Hag has said, quote, "Yes, I am aware of it. I spoke with him about it. It is unacceptable. I told him, he apologized, and that's it. No further words. It's an internal matter." So he has said that, one, he was aware, and it's not acceptable. So clearly there are some rules in place about if there's training the next day, you can't be out late or anything like that, and it's an internal matter. And the moment he said that, the entirety, pretty much, maybe 90% of this press conference then turned into Marcus Rashford questions. Marcus Rashford, how is that acceptable? Is that unacceptable? His form this season. So this is essentially a Rashford show, pretty much. So he said that, again, he told him it was unacceptable. Marcus Rashford did apologise. Hey, Jayden, look at that straight away. You were wrong. I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. It's handled. Internal matter. Maybe Rashford can go to Jadon Sancho and say, see? Look at that straight away. I said I'm sorry, and I'm playing at the weekend. Wouldn't you know it? Unbelievable. It's amazing how those things can work, isn't it? But he said it's an internal matter. But of course, when you say something like that, the press will continue to probe. It's like throwing chum in a pit of piranhas, right? I don't know, a lake of piranhas. It's like throwing meat into a bunch of rabid hyenas or something like that. The analogies are tough this late. You get my point. So they're all over this. And the follow-up question to Ten Hag is, okay, it's handled. You said it's an internal matter, but was there a fine? Was there anything else associated with it? Erik ten Hag, blank face, says internal matter. So doesn't say whether or not it was a fine. Doesn't say, anything. Just says it's an internal matter. He apologised, that's it. Simple. But the questions continue about Marcus Rashford, and the follow-up to that was, you look at what Marcus did, broke the rules, clearly. You've said that yourself. Is that an indication he's not tuned in this season? You've been very clear about team spirit and togetherness. Last season, you dropped Marcus Rashford for being late for a team meeting. It was the game against Wolves away. How can he make another mistake? I think that was a question from Jamie Jackson from The Guardian. And Ten Hag then, this is the important thing with this. Erik ten Hag criticised, he explained what happened with Marcus Rashford and said that I told him it was unacceptable. I told him that it was wrong. He's apologised. It's been handled. It's moved on. But he then very quickly, I think maybe reading the room and seeing what the press were trying to do. And frankly, the cat's already out the bag when it comes to that, because we know what the headlines are going to be tomorrow morning. We know what the headlines are going to be. If Marcus Rashford drops another stinker tomorrow, we know what the conversation is going to be about. See, he's out partying, all that kind of stuff. It's already there. So the question was put to Ten Hag, is he not tuned in then? Is this an indication that he's not as, I guess, dedicated, or he's not as, I don't know, tuned in was the phrase they used. Let's keep it to the phrases. Tuned in to how he was last season. And Ten Hag said, your suggestion is not right. He's fitting in with the policies. He's very motivated to put things right. I know which effort he's putting in. He's totally with us. Jamie Jackson said to him then, but you said it yourself, it's unacceptable. So if it's unacceptable, does that mean he's not fitting in? And Ten Hag said, well, he makes a mistake, but it doesn't say that he's not fitting in. I see him every day on training, what he's doing. I know, make one mistake, but also off the pitch, what he's doing, how he lives. I'm sure he's doing everything right to help the team to perform and let us win. So, and then just to round this off as well, the question was then put to Ten Hag, given all of this, I guess, has happened, does this mean that he's going to be dropped like he was before, put to the bench or anything like that? And Erik ten Hag said that he's available. He said he's available tomorrow. Now, I suppose necessarily that doesn't mean that he's starting tomorrow, but Marcus Rashford will be in the squad. So it's not a case of a Jadon Sancho where he's not even going to be in the matchday squad tomorrow. Marcus Rashford will be in the matchday squad. He'll be available. And for me, I look into it then saying that he's going to start. It looks, to me, honestly, that, as I said a few minutes ago, the Aruba journalists hearing what on the surface could could appear to be a salacious story or more drama, because we haven't had enough of it, apparently, at United this season. More drama, more disputes, more back and forth between the manager and a player. But in reality, I look at it as not really a big deal. I said this when the article was put out. I really didn't like the article. I think it was the Telegraph that wrote it. I think it was James Ducker who wrote that article. And as I said before, myself, I always find it just very uncomfortable, that whole, we lose a game, players can't then lead private lives or can't celebrate a family's birthday, can't celebrate their own birthday. What are they supposed to do? Realistically, what do we want? Do we want to see them? Do we just not want to see them at all? Not see them post anything on social media, disappear until next week, and then they win. Then you can celebrate. You can celebrate your birthday if we win. If you lose, how dare you go outside and celebrate your birthday? No, don't do that. I always feel uncomfortable with those kind of things. But in this situation, it's a smidge different. It is a smidge different because, as Erik ten Hag is suggesting, there are rules in place for off-the-pitch activities the day before training. And I think that's kind of par for the course for any football club, with the sense of, if you're meant to be in training at 9, we don't want to see reports that you out till 3:30 the night before. Be professional. Even if it is your birthday, that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, that's just the way the world works. Rearrange it for you got a day off, or you're not in training, or you've got the day off training the next day or something like that. If you're due in, don't be out at 3:30. Those are the rules. Everyone has to adhere to them. So I think really that's what Erik ten Hag is more saying, that, but it's resolved. Internal matter. Was he fined? He didn't say. I would probably suggest it was, but it's just more drama, isn't it? It's more drama. It's more headlines. But in that instance, realistically, again, this is where I do sympathise with Erik ten Hag, because what's he supposed to say? No, I didn't know. He was out. Rashi was out. You got any photos of him? He was out. This is the best way he can answer it realistically, I think, anyway. What is a better way of him answering it? Yep, I've spoken to him. I said it was unacceptable. He's apologised. It's handled. Internal matter. Not going into any more details, not going into whether he was fined or anything like that. I told him he broke the rules. He apologised. Handled. Done. That's it. I mean, to be honest, it's quite funny actually, because as Prod by Palmeiras says in the chat, there are stories about Sir Alex Ferguson going up to Lee Sharp and Ryan Giggs' house when they were on nights out or parties to literally shout at them. So I don't see it as the massive deal. The headlines will run with it, because the headlines ran with it with Marcus Rashford actually going to the event in the first place. So get ready for that tomorrow morning. And actually, again, if we don't get the result we want to tomorrow as well, that's going to be another part of it as well. Super chat here from Mish says, if we don't have press conferences, we won't have a problem. I mean problems. These press conferences, always. But what was quite good actually, and what I do like to do when these embargoed press conferences come out, a lot of the time they're just shown, you don't get like just the embargoed part afterwards, you get to watch the first part of the press conference again. And watching it again, because I did the press conference stream earlier on today, screw you Virgin Media, by the way, and I say that, I might get cut off, because Virgin Media today, we've been literally at each other all day. If you saw the press conference stream, it was a disgrace. It really was. But I did think, as press conferences go, I did think Erik ten Hag, he was bullish today. He was, particularly when it came to the part about him defending his philosophy and defending his style of football and why he hasn't been able to implement it. Also pointing out that he felt that the sort of analysis and interpretation of what he said regarding the Ajax football was wrong, and that he just meant that it can't be exactly, but he's got his philosophy, his principles. He tries to match them with the Man United DNA, which I think he might have a bit of a different interpretation of what the Man United DNA is, but he goes about this later on in this part of the press conference too, when he says essentially, look, the injuries in the defence are a massive problem and have been a massive problem for us. So we'll circle back to that one. But let me put a poll in the chat or something like that. Let's put a poll in the chat and let's ask the question, do we think Marcus Rashford is going to start tomorrow? Siren's possibly in the chat. I mean, it's Friday. What do you expect? I get sirens on, a Tuesday at midday. I'm always going to get sirens at 11 o'clock on a Friday. I mean, that's always going to be. This is always going to happen, isn't it? It's always going to happen. Sirens in the chat. Let's put poll in the chat. Will Marcus Rashford start tomorrow against Fulham? Start against Fulham tomorrow. You know what? I was just thinking, actually. Fulham tomorrow. What we need, screw just the generic siren emoji. What we really need, we need like a custom UV members siren. Josh, if you're watching this now, and I hope you are, because Josh is like me. Josh is a night owl. He's up late to all times in the morning. Make some kind of OWEN siren. If we can get some kind of OWEN siren emoji, just think of the possibilities with that. I don't know what that looks like. I'm leaving that to the mind of Just Josh Media, Graphics Guru, Visual Ninja. But some kind of OWEN siren, that would be, is that possible? And if you're watching, can it be done? Maybe like magic, it can happen. Poll is in the chat. And the question was, will Marcus Rashford start against Fulham tomorrow? If I was voting in this, I would say yes. Despite all of this hubbub this evening or anything like that, Marcus Rashford will start tomorrow because Marcus Rashford always starts. Erik ten Hag said so himself. I don't think he'll be dropped to the bench. But some would say, look, if Marcus Rashford isn't going to be dropped to the bench for poor form, and also actually, disciplinary issues, which is what this is, essentially, then he's never getting dropped. Ever. Not at all. A couple more super chats here. I'm going to get some more stuff. Amanor says, Owen, did you see what Simon Jordan said about Erik ten Hag? I didn't. So if someone wants to say, let me know in the chat what he said. I'm happy to dissect, discuss, provide analysis. What I did see, and let me get this up in front of me as well. This is what I like about these later shows too. You can be as loose as you want. You can let's have a bit of fun, off the cuff. I saw a piece that was written by, just saying his name, Graham Souness. Honestly, just saying his name. Graham Souness, who wrote something for the Daily Mail. And spoiler, a shocker I know, slagging off Man United, slagging off Erik ten Hag. It's very surprising, I know. I was stunned by it. I can't believe he did it, Graham. But he goes back to United. This is the quote. United players are not having Ten Hag's body language, his soft Dutch accent, or his ill-fitting suits. Now this, to me, is a perfect example of why we need to stick with Erik ten Hag and not turn our backs on him right now. Because the media, the ops, the people that want to see Manchester United fail, that want to see Erik ten Hag fail, that revel in the misfortune that we have, that revel in the mud that we are currently in, and no doubt we're in the mud. That make no mistake, we are fully in the mud right now. It's not even mud. It's like a pig in shit is what we are at the moment. And pigs actually like it. We don't, so we're not sort of piggish, but I'm getting lost in the analogy again. My point is, you've got these people doing it again. You've got your Simon Jordans, you've got your Graham Souness's, you've got your Tim Sherwoods, your Gabby Agbonlahor, trolls, basically. You've got your trolls slandering the manager and slandering the club and all this kind of stuff. The media are already piling on. I wouldn't be surprised if in a week's time we have Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher 2-on-1 with Erik ten Hag, not in that way, in an interview, obviously, like again at Carrington. And we can't turn our backs on him now. The media are already piling on. And make no mistake, Erik ten Hag, he's made errors this season. Significant ones. Recruitment, tactics, and some of the things he said in the media too. But, and this was a question that was put to him later on too, the owners, the executives, and the players share huge responsibility with this. It's not just all on Erik ten Hag. Man United's total failings are not just totally on Erik ten Hag. And I think we as fans need to see what the media are trying to do, when it comes to Ten Hag, when it comes to Rashford as well, with stuff like this. And it's not blind faith backing and not acknowledge the errors, because again, there have been massive ones and you're allowed to acknowledge them as well. I'm not into that whole blind faith, back him irrespective of what he does. But what I am saying is, don't let these guys win, because they love it. They absolutely love it. We're talking all this stuff about Man United. Look at what kind of analysis is that from Graham Souness? Body language, soft Dutch accent. What does that even mean? Soft Dutch accent. He's Dutch, so I guess he's got a Dutch accent. Soft. I've never once seen an Erik ten Hag presser and gone, the accent's a bit soft today, Eric. You okay? Never. And his ill-fitting suits. What's his fascination with Erik ten Hag and how his suits fit him? Because this isn't even the first time the suit thing's been brought up. Am I missing something about like the way that Erik ten Hag dresses? Because now Graham Souness, Simon Jordan said the same thing. I remember there was that woman journalist from the Times that was criticising him after we lost against Brentford last season, talking about with his way he dresses on the touchline. What world are we living in with this? These are sport writers or sport analysts, and they're talking about him like they're Trini and Susanna. I honestly, it's madness. Realistically, it's madness, and you have to see it for what it is. They're piling on because they love it. They absolutely love it, and it's nonsense. Breathe, Owen. Daniel Luciano says, simple super chat because I'm so happy you're live. Alive or just live? I'm happy I'm alive as well, but I jest. Joe also says, sounds like Erik ten Hag isn't willing to forget his principles even if he loses his job. Taking on Rashford is him saying, I'm in charge until you're not. Well, again, it's criticising Rashford. It's criticising Rashford for, the party or whatever, but still, it's very much backing him in the same manner that he's been backing him as well. Which, again, some will point to and say, hey, that's still what has got you in a lot of trouble so far this season, Eric. Some might even argue that you've got an excuse if you want to take him out the side tomorrow. You've got one. You can use it. You've got that wild card in your back pocket. You've got that in your pocket if you want to use it. But he doesn't want to use it as well. So certainly very interesting. Right, this was an interesting point that I liked that was asked in this embargoed part of the press conference. And it was about the system at Manchester United, the structure. And the question was put to Ten Hag, and it was, you've seen greats come here, we have seen greats come here in the last decade and fail. Very successful managers. Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, they failed. Is it not necessarily the manager's fault totally? Is it the fact that Manchester United doesn't have a structure that's fit for success, i.e. a manager cannot be successful in this system and in the way that United is structured? And Erik ten Hag didn't really answer the question. He said the quote was, it's possible. I thought, Eric, I was surprised. I thought he was going to, but again, he does sort of circle back to this in just a second. But he went, it's possible. And I thought, you're right. It is possible. It's very possible. In fact, it's 100% accurate that this is not the system for success at all. But he then gets into the sort of buzzwords by saying, but, we stick together, we are together. And then I think he realised what he said when he went, it's possible, because he talks about, we have to stick together, we are together, and we want to win football matches, blah, blah, blah. And then the journalist, rightfully so, circles back to Eric and goes, so about that structure then, is it set up to be successful? Is the football structure allowing you to be successful? And then he says, well, I wouldn't be here if I thought it wasn't. So he does at the end say that he feels that the structure is good. But at the start, about 10, 15 seconds before, he says, well, it's possible. It's possible. Very possible, Eric. Very, very possible indeed, which I thought was quite interesting for him to answer. We'll get to a Rashford question in just a second, but I want to show you guys something. This is also what's fun about these sort of live late shows. So, the latest episode of UV Raw came out today. I believe it's episode 24? 24, I think it is, of UV Raw. If you're not familiar with what UV Raw is, it's the behind the scenes going on day to day at United View. Sometimes on match days, sometimes in days we're just sitting around and doing stuff, and it's exclusive for members. It's members only. Only the members of the UV Members Club can witness this, can see these episodes. As I mentioned, there's 24 of them. There's so many more to come. I think we're going to be getting them out every couple of days now because we've got a bit of a backlog. And this is a fascinating clip. Now, this clip was from when we played Wolves at home towards the end of last season. This episode only came out today. But now in context, it's very interesting. And whilst Josh and Flex and Marcel are setting up to do a fan view outside of Old Trafford, Marcel was asked about a debate that was happening that day on the match view. And the debate was, at the time, who was a bigger flop? Pepe from Arsenal or Jadon Sancho from Manchester United? Bear in mind, this was the end of last season. How do you think this clip has aged? Let me know your thoughts.
Sancho better than Pepe, or Pepe better than Sancho. And this is just their time at Arsenal and Man United. Look, she's run away. They're both running away.
Wow, you put me on the spot here.
Put you on the
just their
spot.
time at Man United. Well,
Sancho's time at United and Pepe's time at Arsenal. Yeah, Pepe done 3 seasons. He's out on loan now. Sancho's done 2 seasons and he was in Dam for 6 weeks in his second season.
So the first season with Ralph, it was up and down, but he was almost kind of like a best of both out of a poor bunch of players.
But overall, because look at it, you say the thing. Pepe was in the shit team with fucking Willian, David Luiz, and all these men that we sold after one season.
Okay, so then can we judge it after the next season? Because that's free.
You can,
free
but you can. But I'm saying you can pick any of Pepe's seasons against any of Sancho's seasons, and it's better.
Yes.
Thank you. That's just for Raw, innit? Love, I know you're a member, so you're going to see this eventually when it goes out, innit? This is for you, innit? You're disgrace, you're a cheat.
But imagine this. Next season, how about we come back to this and
If he
Sancho
does
could be better?
He could be.
Next season, we come back to this. It'll be better. Damn. Marcel. I saw that come out today. And when did we play Wolves? The end of last season. That's what, May? I think something. Is that around that time? Man United Wolves. Obviously played them at the beginning of this season. It's not that one. It's the one. It's the one before that. In the again. What? Let's have a look. What date was that? May. It was May. And the Marcel goes, I'll come back next season. We'll see what happens. Damn. I don't think it's aged particularly well, that one. But you can see stuff like that if you're a member. So if you haven't already and you want to get involved and you want to see those episodes, you can join the UV Members Club. Just click the join button. It's the pinned comment in the live chat. It's in the video description below. In addition to that, you get your badges, you get your emojis, all that kind of stuff. And also, if you're a member, you can call in. You can talk to me. You can talk to everyone on the full-time view. That's going to be tomorrow after the game, as it is after every match day as well. Let's get back to the press conference because there was another question about Marcus Rashford. And that was about him starting deeper. And also, he started on the bench he was so deep, he was on the bench against Newcastle. The question was put to Ten Hag, was that because of the sort of disciplinary issues with this party thing? Or was it a case of rotation? And Ten Hag said, quote, "It's not our intention to position him lower or deeper on the pitch. He has to be as close as possible to the opponent's goal because they are his qualities. So for us, it's so important. He will so much contribute to our success." He also stated that it wasn't a case of Ten Hag putting Rashford on the bench out of a disciplinary issue. We rotated. It's very clear to see that we rotated. And it's a bit of a loaded question, isn't it? Because very clearly, United rotated against Newcastle. How many changes did we make? Was it like 5, something like that, maybe a bit less? And I don't think anyone thought Rashford starting on the bench was due to discipline. Same thing with Bruno. So it wasn't that. But what I did think was interesting about the comment that he makes there, saying that, Rashford's been starting deeper this season, and Ten Hag goes, well, that's not our intention, basically. And again, I don't know if that's more talk about, well, we're trying to set up a certain way and the players aren't executing it, because that was something he mentioned in the press conference earlier today, talking about the execution of his game plan or the execution of his tactics maybe not being how he would like. So he wants Marcus Rashford to be higher up the pitch as opposed to deeper, but he's not doing that. Interesting. Interesting stuff. What are people in the chat saying? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at this poll actually as well. That's been going on for 13 minutes, 232 votes. By the way, over 500 people watching, less than 100 likes, but 232 votes. I know sometimes when you're in the chat, the vote thing just like appears over everything, so you just click something to get rid of it. But whilst you're there clicking, click the like button as well. Why not? Why not? PJ says they don't follow simple instructions. Palmerius says UV Raw is amazing. I urge everyone to join the membership. Best on YouTube for members. Lots of content and you get your money's worth compared to other channels. No disrespect to them. No disrespect indeed, but appreciate the nice words about the membership as well. What else are people saying in the chat as well? Franklin says, I'm not biased towards Sancho. Pepe is better than Sancho. What else are people saying here? I want to make sure that it's not just members as well. I want to get the everyone involved. Giovanni says, forget about Pepe as well. Thelma says, Ten Hag press conference speech sounds okay, but if he loses the next 3 matches, he is finished. Which I would tend to agree. This was something that this is what I pointed out earlier today, and I said it on social media too, that for the 10 millionth time, because it's kind of wild actually that you can say on the record, like, you don't want the manager to get sacked. You want Manchester United to stay with the manager, and you hope that the players and the manager can turn it around. And then people say, you sound like you're Eric Ten Hag out, which is like, what? But, okay, I don't want Eric Ten Hag to get sacked. I don't think that it's in Man United's best interest to sack Eric Ten Hag, because I see that as, again, patchwork on a bigger, longer-term problem, and we will find ourselves in the same situation in 12 to 18 months' time again. We've got to break the cycle. But I'm not naive enough to say that if we continue to lose football matches, if we lose against Fulham tomorrow, which could happen, and in particular, it's the Copenhagen game that really worries me, honestly, because away from home, Champions League, hostile atmosphere as well. If we lose that game, for me, I know maybe not mathematically, but effectively, we're out of the Champions League. And I think that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I did say this after the Newcastle game, that I felt that, we were in sort of the end game. I felt like we were in the end game, or we were I described it a bit as like a death spiral, realistically, with Ten Hag. But I hope out of the jaws of that, we can get out of it, or Ten Hag gets out of it. I also feel like that what he has got going for him is that because of all of this 25% acquisition stuff, United can't afford to sack him financially. They can't afford to bring someone else in. And also, Ineos might be in communication with the Glazers and saying, well, if we're going to be in charge of footballing decisions, why would you sack a manager? Maybe we want to keep him. Maybe that should be our decision as well. So that's where I stand. And look, I'm not going to begrudge people that have a different opinion to me on that as well. This is, again, it's like this whole takeover thing in the first place. If someone has a differing opinion to you, it would appear that nowadays what people think they should do is scream at them and tell them that they're an effing moron and they're stupid, and try and put them down, as opposed to say, why do you think that? Well, I disagree. We're not going to agree on this issue, but let's still support Manchester United. That sort of civility has very much gone. Very, very much gone, isn't it? So, but look, if we lose tomorrow again, pressure goes from already here to even higher. I can't even get much higher, is what it's going to be as well. Regarding Eric as well, one of the questions put to him was about how he manages the pressure. How are you managing the pressure at the moment? And Ten Hag said, nothing different than other periods. It's about 11 versus 11, refereeing the opponent, facing the opposition. You do that on the training pitch, and you prepare the team as best as possible. And the journalist kind of pushed back to him on that and said, yeah, but there must be an impact on you. You're not a robot, Eric. There's pressure on you, clearly. It must have an impact. And Ten Hag said, always when the team is not playing well, you think about how to get it right. But for the rest, I'm not thinking about things away from the team. Obviously, I need my relaxation to get the energy. But for now, it's 24/7. You think about, how do I get this right? And it's funny how results can change your perception of someone. Because after that Newcastle game, we spoke about this the other day, didn't we? Saying that he cut a very isolated figure on that touchline, Erik ten Hag. And then people start doing those posts where they say, you know, first day on the job, and now look what happens to Erik ten Hag, and he's got the bags under his eyes, and there's more grey in the beard, and he looks, you know, just haggard, and he looks, you know, just even more sort of Skeletor-ish. It looks like Steve Austin without any sleep, you know, and you see that, and it's got to be the pressure of being the Manchester United manager, even when you're doing well, is exponentially higher than certainly any other managerial job in the Premier League, without a doubt. Arguably most in world football. Only your maybe like Real Madrid and Barcelona do you have that level of scrutiny every single day. Every single thing you do is scrutinized to the nth degree. Anything you say in a press conference or an interview can become a 2-week story. Any slight word that you use can be twisted and manipulated and spun back to you and slapped you around the face a couple of times to tell you how stupid you are. You know, that is the nature of the job, and it does weigh on people. That's why it's so incredible, the dominance and the tenure that Sir Alex Ferguson had, because despite all of that going on, that pressure, he managed to manage it so effectively. And as he said sometimes, one of the biggest parts of Sir Alex Ferguson's job was just managing the media. You know, the actual day-to-day training sessions and tactics on the training pitch, he didn't really get involved in. He would have his coaches run training sessions. He'd oversee things because it's such a big job that you're manager in the sense you're not only managing the team, but you're managing the media as well. And that's why in certain press conferences, certain things, get out, go away. You're not allowed here. You write shit. You write lies. So I'm not allowing you back in until you're banned, or you're not going to be coming back ever again. And again, that scrutiny, that pressure is tough, particularly, and that's one thing when you're winning. It's another thing when you're losing, when you've got back-to-back 3-0 home defeats against City and then against Newcastle as well. So that's why I say, for me, I still say we stick by the manager and try and support as best as we can, because we've seen this. You know, we have seen this story, and again, I know people won't agree with that, but that's how I feel about it. Certainly. Am I caught up with the super chats? So we got a couple of super chats here. One from my style advisor says, that episode of Raw was from May. Marcel had a scarf and a jacket on in the car earlier on in the episode. Big up OWEN UV family and the mods. It's true. I believe in the episode Marcel gets roasted. Pun intended, I suppose, for that. Marcel is a unique guy. People sometimes say to me, you know, with Marcel, is he really like that? Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's why also UV Raw is so great too, because you see everyone from UV outside of that football setting. And that sometimes is even more fun. And they have those conversations in the car, or they have those conversations in the sort of production room at UV HQ. Or sometimes there are episodes coming up that have got nothing to do with football, whatever. There's like a 20-minute episode of just a very heated debate between myself, Flex, and Josh. It starts off with some spicy rice, and it turns into who is the most fussy eater, me or Josh. If that floats your boat, that's coming very soon. It's excellent. Giovanni says, I will give half the team away to sign Paulinho. I mean, what a player. Looked like he was going to Bayern Munich, and now he signed a new contract at Fulham. The Tony Khan negotiation. Excellent. Let's actually show you something else before we get to the rest of these questions and the rest of these answers regarding Erik ten Hag and the build up to tomorrow. There was something that dropped today here on United View, which people have really enjoyed. Got some really positive comments about it, which is much appreciated, everyone that's enjoyed it thus far. And it was called United Therapy. Flex sat down with Avellino, and they just had a bit of a chat, you know, spoke about what's going on at United, just said how we're feeling. And it was inside UV HQ. A lot of people really enjoyed it. Here's a short snippet of what's in store with that.
On Erik, like, either to the viewers, to every United fan around the world, to just me in here, just how to Erik, like a closing statement to say like how you feel about him and what you still believe in.
Look, so a closing word to Erik and the whole of United. I'm no fool, you're a good football coach. Erik ten Hag is a good football coach. You know what I mean? I've been watching football a long time, you know, and I could be wrong. I just don't believe I am in saying that. I think it's in our best interest as Manchester United fans to get behind the team, get behind the manager, and, you know, I believe, you know, I'm not skilled as you, Erik, in terms of what you do, but I believe, you know, getting these players to work together, find the common goal, and really attack the basics and the principles of how to get success in any field probably is the most important thing. A common goal. These are people from all parts of the world, different stories, different backgrounds, you know, but we all play for Manchester United, we all love football, you know, and we just got to find that common motivation, man, to fight for the same goal, which is to represent this club in the right way. You know, we're a mammoth football club, which I guess in a way is the gift and the curse. But, you know, we've kind of got to use the negatives to our advantage, you know. So, or try to, you know. So anything is possible. And if someone wants to say to me that, you know, being successful with all these brilliant footballers and a brilliant manager, which is Ten Hag, is impossible, then that person isn't very genuine. You get me? So. Yeah.
Big up to Flex and Avelina. As I mentioned, check that out. UV therapy or United therapy. And yeah, we're just trying some different stuff. You know, you guys want more, we'll give you more. We've got your United therapy, as I mentioned, these sort of late night streams as well. Late night United news, particularly most Fridays when there's these press conferences as well. And yeah, let us know if you're enjoying that. Let us know in the comment section below and in the live chat. And we've already got some really positive comments on that. So really appreciate everyone that's checked that out. Let's go back to the embargoed press conference. Again, I want to get through these quotes. So I want to get to the Kobbie Mainoo news before we have to wrap things up this evening. So the question was put to Ten Hag about Wednesday. You said after the defeat you wanted to take responsibility, but also there was the duty of the players to take responsibility. The question was put to Ten Hag, can they even take responsibility? And Ten Hag said, I have to take responsibility, but yeah, they have to share. I trust the players, they fight, they're a spirit, and he pointed to the Brentford thing again. But I think that's an excellent question. I think that's an excellent question by that journalist, and I wish I had the name. Sometimes it's difficult to kind of make out who asked that question, but it's a fantastic question. You know, you're coming out and saying you have to take responsibility. Look, you're the manager. When you lose, the buck stops with the manager, so obviously you're going to take a lot of the burden with that. But at the same time, you point out correctly that the players have a duty to take responsibility when they're putting in poor performances. Can they even do that? Because historically, they haven't showed that they can. And it's interesting that he didn't say yes. He just said, I trust the players. They fight. They're a spirit. And points to Brentford. He will always point to Brentford, that game. And as I said earlier on today, that's great. And people can point to the last minute Brentford comeback and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to compare sample sizes, we've seen more of them not taking responsibility as opposed to them actually fighting back, certainly. A question was put to Ten Hag about changes, saying in the last 6 matches, you've made half-time changes in 5 of them. Why? And to be honest, it's a very straightforward answer, because I want the team to play better. Which I thought, to be fair, I thought that was a really good answer, because it's very logical. Why did you make those changes? I want the team to play better. And he said that's why you have a squad. You know, the team needs to change most of the time to win a game. You know, you make the change, it changes the game. We have the squad, you use the squad. That's why. Then the follow-up question was a bit better regarding that. This is the better way of phrasing it. They said, so if you look at those games then, because you had to make those changes at half-time, does that imply that the starting 11 hasn't been correct in the majority of those games? And Ten Hag said, I don't necessarily think that's the case. He said it's about game management. If you're losing or you're drawing or even if you're winning, sometimes you have to make changes to manage the game. And when he said game management, my ears perked up more than they usually do, because I thought game management, that is something that you cannot equate to Manchester United. Man United's game management, and this goes back to last season as well. I mean, Kenny would say, I thought he were poor when it comes to game management, because the game management is just not there with Man United in terms of, you know, holding out for victories or also fighting back from setbacks as well. So is at least an acknowledgement from Erik ten Hag that it's about game management. Sometimes, as was pointed out, he's been doing it at half-time recently. And in certain games, it's worked. For instance, bringing on Christian Eriksen against Copenhagen was a key substitution, and it worked. But sometimes the substitution's a bit late, a bit too late. I mean, for instance, Flex pointed it out when Bruno and Rashford came on against Newcastle. Were we 3-0 down? Or sometimes when we're 2-0 down, 3-0 down, and they'll bring on a left-back or something like that. I don't really see the game management in that one, unless it's squad management and he's saving someone for a rainy day. I'm not sure. Now, keeping in line with all of this tactical talk, I think this was one of the best questions of the press conference. So they said, after the victory over Copenhagen, you were asked by Paul Scholes about how you find balance in the midfield. And you pointed out that because of the changes at the back, you then struggle to have balance in the midfield. Why is that the case? And Ten Hag said, when you don't have a consistent back four, the routines are not there, especially the way I want to play, where everyone is attacking, everyone is defending. The routines are very important. And when that is not the case, sometimes the midfield is exposed. It's not the fault of the midfield, and I can't blame the back four because the routines are not there. In top football, it goes so quickly, and then you don't take the right position in the right moment, the midfield can look exposed. It's what you don't want, and it will have an impact on the game. But you have to get back to the routines, and also then you have to play with a consistent team. And you know what? I think that is one of the better answers he's given about Manchester United's struggles this season. I know he's been reluctant. He mentioned this in the first part of the press conference. He's been reluctant to lean on the injuries and give excuses because in his mind, there aren't excuses, and excuses aren't good enough or anything like that. But at the same time, he's sort of saying that his philosophy is everyone attacks, everyone defends. And if that's part of it, there has to be consistency and there has to be routines. And when you can't play a consistent back four, you have no defensive routines and the midfield looks exposed. So it's not necessarily the fault of the defenders because they're not consistent in those patterns of play. And it's not the fault of the midfielders because they're the ones getting exposed as well. So I looked at that and said that's a pretty good answer. To me, stuff like that, I appreciate the tactical response. I still say that's not an excuse about certain players' work ethic. That's not an excuse for jogging. That's not an excuse for bad attitude. That's not an excuse for sulking and shrugging and flailing hands in the air. Whether it is Bruno Fernandes being petulant, whether it's Anthony against Newcastle, or against City, rather, being petulant, whether it's Rashford doing the fake jog, which is walking. For stuff like that, there's no excuse for anything like that at all. And that's where people will push back and say, okay, we get that. And that's a fair and valid answer you've given, but still work ethic and work rate isn't there as well with that. And then finally, when it comes to the questions in the embargoed part of the presser, then we'll move on to Kobbie Mainoo quickly. The question was put to him last month. You said that you believe the team was successful in regaining possession, but how do you make sure that leads to a shot on goal as opposed to giving the ball away again? And Ten Hag admitted, he said, quote, "We can do better. We've worked on that with players, and I'm convinced they will transfer that into matches," which is really on brand of what he's been saying a lot throughout this whole thing, saying that he believes in these players and these players will deliver eventually. That's what he says. I'll close the poll in the chat now. We've had over 400 votes. The question was, will Marcus Rashford start against Fulham tomorrow? 61% of you say yes, despite Ten Hag saying that it was handled internally and all that kind of stuff. He did say Rashford was available and that he will start. He said he would be available to play tomorrow. Some question whether or not he'd be on the bench or anything like that. Ten Hag has dropped him before, so you never know. But indeed, 61% of you say Rashford will start. Ed here says Crown Jewel watch along. Now that, if you're not familiar, that it will be happening, yes, on my channel tomorrow. I'm gonna have a busy day tomorrow, so we've got obviously in the morning road trip, match view. And then after the game, we've got the fan views, full-time view. Once I'm finished on the full-time view, I'm then jumping over to my channel to do a WWE Crown Jewel watch-along, which is going to be at 4 o'clock? Just after 4. The event starts at 5, but there's like a pre-show. So I'll be live there. So a busy couple of days. And I wouldn't have it any other way, certainly. My style advisor is back once again. It says, Owen, I had an idea a while ago. How about a mod view? The mods have their own show on United, and maybe some could get on the main shows with good reviews. Almost like a structure, unlike United. Well, you never know. You never know. Anything's possible in the future with United View. A great example of people, if they do want to contribute to the shows or anything like that, as I mentioned, is on shows like the call-in shows, for the members. If you want to call in, have your say. A couple people have called in for the first time recently and had some really good calls. I really enjoyed doing that show a lot, because you hear all kinds of different opinions and people's personalities, and it's great. It's never a dull moment. So again, I would really recommend getting involved with that show. It's a lot of fun, certainly. VK says, appreciate this late stream, Owen, or 6 a.m. here, 6 a.m. and a good listen during my drive to a morning round of relaxing golf. Hopefully relaxed to watch United later. Well, enjoy the golf and enjoy, hopefully, the football later on. But appreciate the contribution there as well. Finally, I do want to talk about Kobbie Mainoo. So there was a story going around today that basically Manchester City were interested in trying to get Kobbie Mainoo away from Manchester United. And what a blow that would be. This is the guy that's earmarked to be the next big star coming out of the United Academy. We've got so many big hopes for him this season. I think, the expectation's too much on him, frankly. He had a good pre-season and he got injured. It was really unfortunate. But people, I think, assume he's going to come in and just completely rejuvenate and revitalize Manchester United. And you have to remember, he's a kid. I mean, how many Premier League starts has he had? 1 or 2 or something like that? So I think the expectation might be a smidge too high on him, but that's what we do as Manchester United fans. But there was a story going around today that City were interested in trying to take him away from us. Now, it's being reported by Stephen Railston from the Manchester Evening News that Manchester United are relaxed about Manchester City's long-standing interest in Kobbie Mainoo. He chose to join United's academy over City at age 9, and City have since attempted to lure him away at ages when it would have been possible. He's chosen to stay each time, essentially saying that they've tried on multiple occasions. Every single time he's tried to stay, or he has stayed, obviously, and United don't think that's going to be any different now. I mean, he signed a new contract. Was he signed a new contract last year, was it? I think it was. Signed a new long-term contract. What was that? Earlier this year, February 2023. So, and that's a 4-year contract with an option to extend by a further year. So, Man United, I don't think have any reason to be worried about that. Maybe take it as a badge of honor that City are looking to get him, because clearly he's a player. I do worry about the expectation that some of the fans maybe put on him, because we do this a lot. We do this a lot about this person's the answer. In the same way that we do this person's the problem, we do this person's the answer. And it's not to play down Kobbie Mainoo's potential or his ability, but we have to take care of him, and we have to also, again, as fans, almost have a responsibility to not put too much pressure and expectation on him, because the expectation and pressure is already there just by coming through the Manchester United Academy and having a bit of talent. And I said we've got to make sure that it's not too much too soon. I do have faith in Erik ten Hag that he can effectively manage a young player coming through, because he has done that previously in his career. And clearly, I mean, you saw it last season. He had earmarked Kobbie Mainoo as someone that he wanted to bring through, and he wanted to blood into the first team. And if he hadn't got injured in pre-season, I don't think he would have played the part that people maybe thought he would have. I think people maybe were suggesting that he was going to be starting every single game. Look, you never know. Football's about timing and opportunity, and we had a lot of injuries in midfield, so anything's possible. But I still think he'd have had maybe like a Garnacho kind of role in the team, where it's not starting every game, coming on more often than he did last season. Maybe the occasional cup game he would start or something like that. But now, not only have we got to not put too much pressure on him anyway, but also we have to realise that he's coming back from a major injury. He was out for 3 months. That's a significant injury, particularly at a young age as well. can be difficult to come back from. So we need to effectively manage that and also manage his minutes properly anyway to properly integrate him. But if we get it right, he could be a really crucial player for us, certainly. I mean, people are already posting the clips of him playing in the under-23s the other day and him being back in training too. So here's hoping that he will get moments and minutes this season. He did travel with the squad, I believe, to London for tomorrow's game against Fulham. So you never know. Might be on the bench. But certainly won't be starting or anything like that. But might be on the bench and maybe after the... Well, because what games would he play? I don't see him getting involved tomorrow unless we're ahead quite significantly in the game. I don't see that. Copenhagen, I don't see him getting involved. I don't see him getting involved with the Copenhagen game. It's too big, too much pressure, too much must-winness involved in that one. We do have Luton, that coming, I think it's Saturday at Old Trafford, 3 o'clock kickoff. No disrespect to Luton, but that would be the one, really, if he's going to get involved in that. If he's going to get involved in the game prior to the international break, it would probably be that. Again, not starting, but you would hope that United put in a half-decent performance against a Luton side at Old Trafford that allows Kobbie Mainoo to come on later on in the game, but you never know. As coach says, though, no, Casemiro's out for a while. Mainoo might be closer than you think, Owen. It's true. That is a valid point, although we do have midfield options. We do. With, obviously, you've got Amrabat. Who we got them? Amrabat, Eriksson, McTominay, Mason Mount. So that's already 4 you got in there. Kobbie Mainoo's the 5th one. Am I missing anyone? I mean, I could technically say Donny, but Kobbie Mainoo's got a better chance of being involved than Donny van der Beek does at this point. So it's still not as if we don't have options in there, but it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, certainly. So there you go. How many likes are we currently on at the moment before we wrap things up? We are currently at 168 likes. We've got over 600 people watching. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get it to 200 on the way out. Well, you never. I don't want to guilt trip. I don't want to say if we get to 200 or 250 we'll win, because I don't think the universe works like that. I think we've gone past the point of judge at this point. Have you noticed that that's kind of died down now? Have you noticed all the talk about the flex judge or the KG judge or whatever is disappeared because we lose games when KG's in the country, when he's out the country. We lose games when flex touches the players or we don't touch the players as well. So the sort of judge arguments disappeared unless it's permanent, unless the flex is permanently infected a lot of these players. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's part of it, but that kind of argument's, I think, kind of disappearing too, isn't it, realistically? So there you go, guys. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in, joined the first late night United news stream. As I mentioned, we are going to be doing more of these, particularly when we have these kind of press conferences that have the embargoed part, because as I always say, the embargoed part is the best part. And also as well, stories come out late. That's the way journalism works when it comes to football, is particularly the night before a game, a big game, you always get it. If there's a big game and there's a lot riding on it and it's United and there's drama, it will always come out. Remember when we had that Champions League game against, was it Leipzig away? This was during the COVID season and we had to win. And then it came out like the night before about Pogba. I can't remember what he said about, looking for other clubs or something like that. It's always the night before. Always the night before. Always the embargoed part of the press conference. Every single time. So we'll be here for it. Moving forward, certainly. Anyway, guys, have a good evening or morning or wherever you are in the world. That's why I like doing these late night ones as well. Because some people that don't get the opportunity to watch live can watch live. Because it's a normal time for them. So appreciate everyone that's tuned in. If you haven't already, subscribe. Actually, look at the top right-hand corner. 156,349. I mean, it's an odd number to end on, isn't it? It's an odd number to end on. Maybe if it ends on 50, sort of the OCD in me is like looking at it. Go and roll over. Yes. Anyway, as I mentioned, tomorrow we will be, let's say tomorrow, 10 minutes time it's tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be live for Road Trip, Match View, Fan Views, Full-Time View, and player ratings, and all of the above. So have a great evening, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Tomorrow, I'm out of here. Peace.